All right, welcome everyone to another PRESSBOX session at IMSH 2022. I'm your host, Lance Baily, founder and CEO of HealthySimulation.com. We have a great partnership here between the Society for Simulation in Healthcare, SSH, and HealthySimulation.com to bring news, information, updates, panel interviews, conversations, presentations for those who might not be able to make it with us here today, or those that are off doing some other exciting things that are taking place to kind of bridge more of that content will be online and available. We've talked about COVID, how it's had an impact on the industry. We've done research presentations with regards to what's going on from the community. We've talked to the presidents, and now here we're going to be highlighting some of the amazing opportunities that exist with certification through the society. Specifically, we've got two key areas: the Certified Healthcare Simulation Educator, the CHSE, and as well the Certified Healthcare Simulation Operations Specialist, CHSOS. So really excited to learn a little bit more about them, and as well the new advanced designation, which I don't know too much about, so I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about that with our committee and members that are here. So we've got Jared Kutzin, who's a board member as of tomorrow, so don't ask him anything until then. And then we've got our CHSE, also he's a CHSE committee chair. We've got Tim Whitaker, who's with CAE Healthcare and also the Certification Council chair, joining us here, and Carman Turkelson, let me say that again. Turkelson, is that correct?
Turkelson.
Perfect, awesome. Who's on the education committee and also on a board member of IMSH, or the International Nursing Association for Clinical Simulation and Learning. So let's go ahead and start with Jared, and tell me a little bit more about the CHSE and what is that designation and who's it for, who should be thinking about it?
So the CHSE is the Certified Healthcare Simulation Educator certification program. And anybody who has at least 2 years of experience is eligible to sit for the CHSE.
Okay.
It's a written exam, and since the pandemic, we've actually worked with our partners at the testing agencies to allow individuals to take it from home. You log on, you show them your environment, they confirm that nobody else is there to help you and you don't have any notes under the desk. And you can actually take the exam right from the comfort of your own house.
Okay.
It's 115 questions. Okay. 15 of those are sort of experimental questions.
Okay.
And it's a really, I think, good opportunity for individuals who are simulation educators to be able to demonstrate that they have the basic competencies to provide education to our learners, whether that's students or practicing clinicians or whoever it might be. And then obviously the CHSOS is the operations specialist version.
Sure.
And I'm fortunate enough, so I am certified as a simulation operations specialist, and although I chair the educational committee, and I think the operational specialist certification is a great opportunity for those who are really focused in on the technical aspects of simulation.
Right, the operations, the day-to-day things, maybe that aren't necessarily tied towards debriefing or clinical outcomes, but more about kind of how do we operate and run a simulation program as
Absolutely.
a whole. So
Absolutely.
A fantastic designation there. So Tim, tell me a little bit about the CHSE-A, the new designation that's just recently come about.
That would be the CHSOS-A.
Oh, do we not have one yet for CHSE, or maybe it's on the way?
We do have one. The CHSE-A is the advanced designation of a simulated clinical simulation educator. The operational was just launched, so our first inaugural group were actually crowned, per se.
At SimOps.
SimOps, yes.
That's
yes,
right.
sir. So both of those designations are portfolio-based assessments. So basically you're building a portfolio and showing your exemplars of how you've advanced into the simulation world, how you're achieving a little bit higher standard with that credential. And both of them, that's what the A is about, is that I'm up another tier, per se, in best terms, that I'm one of the more leaders in that operational field.
So we've taken it to the next level, right? And as you said, the CHSE, we've got the basics, and now with the A designation, we have that opportunity to even go further and demonstrate more qualifications in the space.
Correct.
Do we know how many folks now have the CHSE? I believe it's in the thousands.
The CHSE is about 2,500.
2,500.
Yeah,
okay.
certified individuals.
Amazing.
But the A is a much smaller group than that.
Sure, because that's a newer thing, just came out, and of course,
Correct.
More requirements in order to achieve that.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. There's an OS. We have approximately 29.
So under 100 at this point, but this is a new program.
Advanced,
This just launched recently, so.
Sorry, I have to defer to the guy.
As
the
Andrew
guy
Spain is behind the camera, everyone.
Is off screen, and we're deferring numbers over to him.
Master of ceremonies with regards to certification. So thank you for those tips there. So you know, I'd love to learn, Carman, a little bit about your experience having the CHSE designation. I think you've got the A as well, if I'm seeing it there on your badge. So tell me about both of those, and how has that helped you to kind of demonstrate your qualifications to your community or your professional kind of colleagues?
So I was in the first group to receive the CHSE-A certification. So I was in the group that was part of the cut score, and I actually did that when I was in my doctorate program. And all of my doctorate work, I'm a nurse, so I was in my DNP program at the time, and my doctorate work was focusing on simulation-based education and patient safety. So for me, it was an opportunity to demonstrate that I had that expertise in simulation. And as a nurse, I already had certification as a critical care nurse. So I already knew the value of having a certification, how that certification can set you apart when you're going up for jobs or promotions.
Sure.
Even if you're not getting a pay raise, it definitely set me apart in terms of getting into my doctorate program by having a CCRN certification at that time.
Sure.
And the CHSE-A's done the same thing for me. And then I went up for my CHSE-A shortly after submitting my tenure portfolio at the University of Michigan.
Wow.
So I basically had that portfolio already together to go up for tenure. And again, my rationale for doing it is to demonstrate the expertise that I have in simulation and to set myself apart and set my university's sim center apart from other universities' simulation centers.
Right, absolutely. So it's just really great kind of accolade that demonstrates the qualification and helps others to not only kind of understand where you're at, but also introduces, I think, them to what is that designation, what does that mean and what does that represent, and then from there they learn more about it and as well the organization, the society, and about simulation as a whole, right? And so certainly I think it provides for that opportunity to bring more awareness to the space through these types of designations. So Tim, tell me a little bit about your role, and as the council chair, what are you helping to oversee in order to kind of improve the tool over time? I know that the tests, for example, have gone through several iterations over the years, making improvements. Tell me more a little bit about that process to make sure that we're at the highest level of the game when we have these certifications.
So fundamentally, we are, it's been within recent years, have received NCCA accreditation. We are accredited ourselves through this body to provide certifications.
Right.
So end of day, it's a very rigorous process with a practice analysis, with the construct of the blueprints, with the item writing and checking performance. It's not we just sit down and write a bunch of questions. These go through a rigorous process. That rigorous process is what brings validity to the credential itself.
Right.
And makes it worth having. And those practice analyses occur worldwide, where we look at the practice, and it's evolving, as you know, so we are required, as a matter of fact, some are coming up, to repeat these practice analyses because there's not massive changes to our jobs and our roles, but there are some that need to be identified, and then we make the constructs of the exams. And those exams, like anything else, you have to renew them as practice changes, and as hundreds of people take the exam, obviously you want new banks of questions, so someone else has done out rote memorization, bringing them.
Well, and I think, you know, the pandemic highlights this.
Yes.
There's a lot of work with distance simulation, and maybe we had dabbled in it before, but now it's this new area for simulation educators, and so we need to make sure that the exam accurately reflects the practice.
Represents all those changes and challenges
exactly.
and opportunities as well. So that's great because it's a living, breathing kind of evolution to this process. It gets better, you know, with iterations over time. I'd love to know, do you think that any type of skills demonstration in the future might be a part of this exam? You know, maybe even for just the CHSOS in terms of the technical application of knowledge? Do you see like a place for that as a part of certification in the future?
I think that's what the portfolio gets to.
Yes.
Oh, so I think that's what the CHSOS-A
that's where we can
and the
demonstrate
That's where the
those
development theory came from.
Yeah.
Okay,
and so it's an opportunity for people going for that credential to be able to submit a body of work. a video exemplar,
You can
a
submit
tool
videos. Yep.
that you've
Okay.
developed, or a
Yes.
simulator that you've
So
created.
that's that skills demonstration,
Yep.
not just
That's where
necessarily
that's brought
in
in.
person where we have to show what we're doing, but we get to show in another way
Yep.
Right.
in terms of the accomplishments.
If you
we
kind,
achieve.
if you look at it a little bit like medical school sense in a way too, you're taught to be a surgeon, right? And you have the basics of the surgery when you come out and start practicing, but then you become a fellow of a surgical society.
Yes.
And that's after a little time and skills demonstration and expertise demonstration. And that was the thought process behind the A
Yeah.
that takes it to that big skill. Now we're the knowledge and now the application,
Yeah.
right? And how we synthesize that and move it forward. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Andrew, will you do me a small favor, man? Will you grab that book right over there? This is my way, everyone, of getting Andrew on camera. I know he was trying not to be on camera.
Well,
This
the
is my way, a
FBI will figure
sneaky
out where
way
he's
of
at
getting
again.
it. Oh, look
Yeah.
at
There we
this.
go,
You
he'll
see,
pass it across.
Consummate professional.
Do
Hand
you
model,
want me to
hand
model-
model.
you want me to model it
There
for
you
you?
go.
There you go.
So the reason I bring up this book is not only because my name is on it, but because I've heard from a lot of the community that this book has helped them with the CHSOS certification. And this is, of course, part of the Springer series of comprehensive healthcare simulations. This one, Operations, Technology and Innovative Practice, 400 pages specifically about technology, operations, administration, coordination. But I'd love to learn from you, Carman, about what tools or resources did you use that helped you with regards to both of your certifications? What resources did you gain access to or utilize?
So I was in the first group for CHSE. There were no
Oh,
resources
wow. So you were
other
the
than
guinea pigs.
a website that had multiple articles. So I read all
a
of those
lot
articles.
Of articles at the time,
Correct.
right?
A
Yeah,
lot of
myself as
articles.
well,
But
yes.
fortunately, I was already reading those articles for my
Sure.
doctorate work because
Okay.
again, my work was focusing on simulation. But I read the articles. There were no prep questions at that time.
Yeah.
So it was a little nerve-wracking, but obviously I survived and succeeded. And then for my CHSE-A, there were exemplars posted on the SSH website that were helpful, that kind of gave you a guide, but ultimately you're kind of creating your own portfolio to tell your story
Sure.
about how you've advanced your practice and how you're now a leader and an expert, even higher expert in
Sure.
simulation.
And Jared, any resources that you could point to for either certification that you think are helpful to people?
So that's a really great question. We just undertook a process to sort of streamline and slim down the reference list for
Okay.
the exam. So
Sure.
that's going to be updated shortly.
Okay.
The Society for Simulation Healthcare offers review courses.
Okay.
The blueprint is a wonderful
Perfect.
opportunity to look at. And there's the PES prep, the
Practice exam.
The practice exam, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay.
That allows people to not read the exact questions, but get a feeling for what the questions are like.
Sure.
And by
so-
I'm sorry.
Yep.
And by the way, those questions are written by the same item writers that write the exams.
Okay.
Yep.
So and
There's like extra questions that we
Yes.
wrote for the purpose of demonstrating what's a part
correct.
of this examination.
And those are the reference slate, as he mentioned, is being there, and that's part of what I'm doing is looking at things like that and how those things correlate to pass rates. And they are revising that. And I myself, I can share your pain. Took the CHSE because I have both and the OS. And the HSE back then was still the literature list, right?
Yeah.
No, there were not comprehensive manuals published yet. And like yourself,
Right.
you guys actually saw a need. So the one thing we have to watch when we do these, I want everyone to understand, is that every question has a reference to it
Sure.
on that exam. So when we change that reference list, we literally got to go back into the exam to change what that question targets to
Right.
as a reference.
So again, that
So
evolution.
it's not a, like just quick process,
Right.
but luckily, Defining Excellence in Simulation in Healthcare, books like your such are coming out that are going to make it a little bit easier. Instead of a 200 long
Yeah.
study list, that we're down to 5.
Right, absolutely. We've got a page on healthysimulation.com that lists specifically all the books that we're aware of, all the nonprofit organizations. There are regional ones, there are specific specialty ones. So, certainly there are a lot of organizations. And then coming to events like IMSH and connecting with peers, looking at the technology tools, going to sessions, those opportunities, the healthysimulation.com Learn platform with our CE webinars and our course content, all of those things create an ecosystem that perhaps when we all got started, I got started 2009 in the space, there really was not a lot of that available
Right.
outside, of course, the meeting, but it's grown and evolved, and I know international organizations have also expanded upon as well. Jared?
Well, and I just want to say, talking about the growth and expansion, especially in terms of certification, you know, for organizations, for hospitals that are going for or have achieved magnet status, they have to have a certain percentage of their nursing staff certified.
Sure.
And the CHSE is actually on the list of accepted certifications
Okay.
by the Credentialing Council for magnet organizations.
Perfect.
And so talking about, you know, 12 years ago, people said, what is simulation? It's a mannequin in a closet. It's a room downstairs, to today where we're seeing the certification process accredited by the NCCA and recognized by other organizations. I think it's a real testament to the value that certification adds to not only individuals, but also organizations.
Right, back in 2009, I was working at several LA community college schools to help support their technical operations as a simulation tech, and there was one of those very schools. They had a room in the back of the sim lab, locked off with all of the new equipment in boxes, and they're like, yeah, that's our simulators. Well, that'll be your responsibility at some point in the future. I'm like, why did you even hire me if I can't unbox these things for you? Anyway, I decided to elect out of that location very promptly. So, but you know, I think it says a lot to the power of the industry and the community as a whole over time, that we've increased the resources that are available to people now. And so, you know, folks, I think if you're new to simulation, there's just so many more resources and tools that are available to you out there that can help you to kind of accelerate much faster and farther than we had to. And so, you know, obviously we're standing on the shoulders of giants like Dr. Gaba, who has, you know, been the innovator to help bring these types of tools to us. But now we've had so many people kind of start to operationalize these things. And I think that comes with the democratization of access to these types of technologies. The price points come down as technology continues to accelerate and to increase. And so more access means more people are going to need to be trained. And here's what I believe is that in the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to have, you know, we're on the early adopter curve. We're going to be going into early majority and late majority. There's, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are going to need to get this type of specialized training. And so all the work we're doing here, I think, will eventually snowball. We'll have, you know, a tipping point, and it will become mass adoption. And so, you know, I'm really excited for where the space is. So the more that we prepare ahead of time, the better it will be. So I just love to leave it at the end with just kind of your thoughts about, you know, encouraging, why should people really consider taking either one of these certifications? What's your recommendation for them, why they really should go for it?
From my perspective, it demonstrates your commitment to your profession.
Sure.
And the organizations that you're a part of. If we want the patient safety officers and the healthcare leaders to acknowledge that simulation, as Paul Frampus said, is not just an add-on to what goes on in the hospital environment or school environment, but truly integrated part of it, then we need to be able to demonstrate that we have criteria that we are judged against. And I think that's what certification does.
Quick point there, you know, we just did a webinar on HealthySimulation.com's Learn platform with the NACSL demonstrating their new standard of best practice for professional development. And boom, right there we can see the certification opportunities, right? And so I think that was one of our most attended webinars ever. I think people are really excited about what that means, because then they can take that to their leaders and be like, look, you don't have to take my word for it. Look at what the professional societies are saying, and look at the tools that they have in order to get us to that level. If you're going to do simulation, you need to make an investment not only in the technologies and the spaces, but in us, right? To be able to handle these things and learn and grow. Because if it's technology based, you know, none of us is using an iPhone 1 anymore, right? And so we have to be prepared for that. Another weird, crazy fact about the iPhone 1 came out in 2007. So those people that were born in 2007, guess how old they are? I'm gonna make us all feel a little older here. They're 16, folks. They're 16 years old. So they're gonna be in our educational programs here in the next 2 to 4 years, and they're digital natives, right? Like never before. So we better be prepared for, you know, some of those learners and how we can best utilize and support them. So Carmen, tell me a little bit. You know, why is your recommendation to become certified?
So I would echo what Jared said. It highlights your commitment to the pedagogy of simulation and to using best practice, and for your ongoing professional development. And I also think it highlights your commitment to being a leader and a mentor in simulation.
Brilliant. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And Tim?
I echo both their comments. Professionally, that was what drove me, right? To support my organizations and such as SimGo, and, you know, Healthy Simulation, SSH. So it's for me. But I do have some vision that this is something similar to aviation simulation. We should have some mandates in place.
Right.
The value proposition, you know, I would implore people that have simulation specialists and educators, make it part of their job descriptions, incentivize it somewhat. And I know we got to do it for us individually first, but it needs to be part of the organization as well. And how you progress through the organization, through your leadership. Right. we're seeing other organizations, Joint Commission, things like that are actually asking us, what simulation is supposed to look like.
Right.
I've engaged with CAMES from the aeromedical industry that these things may become, that it's required. And with the longitudinal study that we all know about, states are saying you can substitute I'm picking numbers, 25% of your clinicals with simulation, but
Right.
you should have credentialed people doing this,
Right.
How can we be
Important
doing
caveat,
summative?
If you want to do it right, you need to set yourself up for
Correct.
success.
And you have to demonstrate.
You have to
Correct, you have
demonstrate.
to demonstrate that.
Absolutely.
And as Tim's saying, we're already seeing states that are saying,
Yes.
if you are going to substitute, we are going to require that you have certified individuals leading that educational initiative.
Right,
I mean-
and we'll get better outcomes for that, and again, snowball effect, right? We'll just have
Correct.
more success we can point to, and that will just continue to build out the audiences. Well, to the three of you, thank you so much for sharing about the certification process, your experience with it, and for your volunteer work to help make all of this such a success. And obviously, not only with those certifications, but board members, and just really appreciate it, especially during this crazy, crazy time. So with that, folks, we're going to wrap that up, and we'll see you all at the next one. Thanks so much for joining us.